The research station Velcarith had been orbiting the jungle moon of Dura's 4 for 6 standard cycles, and in that time, senior xenobiologist Kalen had cataloged 47 species, filed 32 reports, and consumed enough synthetic protein packs to last a lifetime. He had never once left the station. That was about to change. "You are not seriously suggesting we go down there," said Naira, his Velthari research partner, her bioluminescent neck frills flattening against her shoulders in what Kalen had come to recognize as alarm. Her 4 violet eyes tracked the feed from the surface scanner. Thick jungle canopy, thermal readings spiking with predator activity, atmospheric pressure within survivable range. "I'm not suggesting," Kalen said, pulling on his field jacket. "I'm going. You can stay here and watch on the monitor." Naira made a sound somewhere between a hiss and a click. The apex fauna on Dura's 4 has never been successfully studied at close range. 3 prior research teams attempted contact surveys. 2 returned with casualties. 1 did not return at all. That's why they sent a human this time. He said it without arrogance. Just fact. The descent pod delivered them to a clearing half a kilometer from the station's primary scan target, a Durasi Malvrek, the moon's undisputed apex predator. 1,600 kilograms of armored muscle, 6 limbs built for both sprinting and grappling, a cranial ridge capable of shattering reinforced alloy plating. The creature had been tagged 6 days ago, and its tracker signal had been moving in slow, deliberate circles, the hunting pattern. Naira stepped out of the pod last, her scanner already raised, fingers trembling slightly against the interface. 3 of her colleagues from the Velcarith's science division had also descended. Researcher Torvin, a heavy-set Grinali with beetle-black carapace, young Sale, a junior analyst seeing field work for the first time, and Chief Observer Mevrith, whose species communicated primarily through color shifts in their translucent skin. They had come to watch Kalen work. None of them had told him that. Kalen moved through the undergrowth like he belonged to it. He was not stealthy in any supernatural sense. He snapped a branch here, exhaled there, but there was something in how he moved that the aliens struggled to quantify. Controlled, deliberate, like a system operating exactly within its parameters, not a single process wasted. "His thermal signature is suppressed," Sale whispered to Torvin, eyes on the scanner. "How?" "The ambient temperature here is. Humans regulate internally," Torvin said. "They do not broadcast heat the same way. Their homeostasis is," he stopped, "remarkably precise." Naira said nothing. She watched Kalen. They smelled the Malvrek before they saw it. A deep, wet rotten iron scent that hit the alien researchers like a wall. Sale stumbled backward. Mevrith's skin turned a rapid, involuntary ochre, the color of fear. Torvin's carapace clicked shut over his sensory organs, a reflex his species had evolved over millions of years in the presence of apex threats. Kalen stopped walking. He crouched, one knee in the dark soil, and tilted his head, listening. His eyes moved in a slow, methodical sweep of the canopy. He reached into his field jacket and removed nothing. His hands stayed empty. The Malvrek came through the tree line at a dead sprint. Even knowing it was coming, the sight of it erased rational thought. It moved like a natural disaster, all mass and momentum, the ground shaking under 6 driving limbs, its cranial ridge angled forward like a battering ram. Its roar arrived a half-second after its body did, and that roar alone sent Sale collapsing against a tree trunk, hands clamped over her sensory receptors. Kalen did not run. He dropped lower. The Malvrek's first strike was a full-body charge, the kind that had annihilated the prior research team's equipment, that had crushed reinforced survey drones into flat metal. Kalen went sideways, a sharp pivot that moved him out of the direct line with the economy of motion that seemed impossible for a creature his size. The Malvrek's ridge passed close enough to tear the shoulder patch from his jacket. He moved, Sale breathed. He actually moved out of the way. The Malvrek wheeled. Faster than something that size had any right to be. It came again, this time lower, 2 of its upper limbs sweeping in a lateral arc designed to pin and crush. Kalen took the blow on his forearm. The sound of it made Naira flinch, meat and bone absorbing impact that should have shattered both. Kalen moved with it, not against it, using the force to spin himself into the creature's flank, and then his arms were around the thing's neck. Not its full neck. That would have been impossible, but the narrow joint where the cranial ridge met the upper torso, the anatomical choke point that Kalen had identified from 6 days of scanner data. He read its anatomy. Torvin said, very quietly. His carapace had crept back open. He studied it before he came down here. Of course he did, Naira said. The Malvrek thrashed. It was extraordinary. A creature that had no natural predators on this moon, that had never in its evolutionary history encountered something that held on instead of fleeing. It slammed sideways into a tree. Kalen held. It rolled onto its back, crushing him briefly beneath 600 kilograms of its own weight. Kalen held. His arms did not release. His grip did not slip. Mevrith's skin had gone through 4 color cycles since the struggle began. There was no color in their species' emotional vocabulary for what they were watching. The Malvrek stopped. Not dead. Kalen had not been trying to kill it. It stopped in the way that living things stop when they reach the absolute boundary of available options, when every avenue has been exhausted and the body's systems begin making quiet, pragmatic calculations about survival. It went still. Its 6 limbs folded. Its roar died into something low and involuntary. Kalen held the position for another 10 seconds. Then he released, stepped back, and let the creature find its feet. The Malvrek stood. It looked at him. All 4 of its sensory clusters oriented directly on the human standing in the clearing. It was breathing hard. So was Kalen. Then the Malvrek turned and walked back into the trees. The clearing was silent. Sale was the first to speak, and only because her translator ran automatically. It left. They're not stupid, Kalen said, breathing carefully, one hand pressed to his ribs. It assessed the situation and made a rational decision. Same as any other apex predator. He looked at his hand. Blood from a scrape along the forearm, shallow. He wiped it on his jacket. Naira crossed the clearing in quick strides and grabbed his arm without asking permission, pulling the sleeve back to examine the damage. A Velthari doing that, initiating physical contact unprompted, was almost unheard of. Kalen looked at her. "You're hurt," she said. "I've been hurt before." That is not a reassuring answer. He almost smiled. "No, I suppose it isn't." Back on the Velkareth, Torvin filed his observation report in silence, which was unusual. He was known across 3 research postings for filing reports with extensive editorial commentary. This one contained 1 paragraph of data and then a single line of personal notation. "I have spent 42 years studying apex fauna across 17 star systems. Today I watched an unarmed human subdue a Malvrek with his hands and walk away. I find I have very little to add." Syl did not file her report that evening. She sat in the observation bay and watched the jungle moon through the viewport for a long time, thinking about the moment when Kalen had crouched in the clearing with empty hands and had not run. Mevrith communicated their observations to the senior council via color flash transmission. The council asked for clarification on one point. Had the human used any tools, any technology, any assistance? Mevrith's response was a single color, no. The council did not reply for a long time. In the medical bay, Naira applied a tissue seal strip to Kalen's forearm while he sat on the examination bench and watched the procedure with calm patience. "You knew it would charge," she said. "It was not a question. I expected it would. You knew where to hold it. I studied the scans." Naira set down the applicator and looked at him. All 4 of her violet eyes, the full attention that her species reserved for things they were still trying to understand. "You were afraid," she said. "I read your biometrics on the descent. Elevated heart rate. Cortisol spike. You were afraid, and you went anyway." Kalen met her eyes. "Yes. That is the part," Naira said slowly, "that none of us can explain." He picked up his jacket from the bench. The shoulder patch was gone, torn off by 300 kilograms of passing apex predator. "Good," Kalen said. "Keep it that way."